Hello, everyone. Welcome to another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. I'm Rick Weaver, your host. As always, I'm joined by Blake Duckworth, my co-host. And tonight we have a special guest from Tennessee, Mr. Alex Niven. Alex is a author. He's author of a children's book, Bobby Bigfoot. We'll be discussing that with Alex tonight. And also, Alex has been having some strange encounters where he lives there in Tennessee with what we think is a Sasquatch. So we'll also be discussing that tonight. Blake, you got anything before we go on, bud?
No, I just hope everybody's having a good night. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. And we do sure appreciate you guys for your support. And if you guys don't mind, if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, leave a like, comment. And like I said, guys, thank you guys for your support. That's all, Ricky.
All right, and guys, yeah, like Blake said, show us some friendship. Hit that subscribe button, that like button, and let YouTube know that you like what we're doing here. All right, everybody, I'm gonna bring our special guest in, Mr. Alex Niven, and Alex is a real good guy. I think y'all enjoy the show. Alex, hi man, how's it going?
Pretty good.
How's it going, Alex? You doing all right, buddy?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right, Alex, why don't you go ahead and tell our viewers about the book the upcoming book you got going on, and we'll get into the discussion then from there.
All right. I started back in September. So, actually just messing around writing the story. I used to write, when I was younger, but never anything serious. And, it takes an hour and a half to get to work, to and from. So about 3 hours of driving time. So I found something to do. I just started thinking about something in the past, and I was like, well, I can't write anything serious. I don't have that skill level, so I decided to try to write, children's stories. And I tried to think of something that might be a little fun, and I, did a few stories in between. And I thought back in 2014 when me and my fiance first seen a Bigfoot, and I was like, Bigfoot might be a fun little story. And I sat there, I started, kind of writing it, on my phone. And before I knew it, I just had, a decent story. So I thought, and I kept on going back and revising it over and over and adding things and changing it. And I found the name Bobby Bigfoot because my stepdad, his name is Bobby. And when I was doing it, it really wasn't, what I had planned. I was sitting there thinking of Bob Bigfoot, Billy Bigfoot, and then I just thought of Bobby Bigfoot, and I thought it kind of ran off the tongue and went from there on that. And right now, it's completely written. My illustrator, Eduardo, he's finished it up, three characters, their designs, and then he's going to go ahead and finish all the illustrations to it. So he said he should have that done within a few months.
Okay, so what possible release date have you got scheduled for it? Have you yet?
Right now, I'm pushing, the soonest the better is what I would think, but it might be realistic around March, April. If I can get it out before Easter, I'm okay with that.
Right.
Now, far as availability, what's your plans as far as making it available, as far as sales wise?
I'm trying to go through Ingram Spark and uh, I'm trying to think of the other one. Um, KDP, sorry. KDP is through Kindle, Amazon, so you can find it on Amazon. Ingram Spark would be through like some brick and mortar stores like Barnes and Noble and other websites, and then of course through myself. So,
Okay.
Right. Well, man, I
but
wish you all the luck in the world. I myself am a published author. I wrote a book back in 2010, and it's a lot of work goes into it. I have a lot of respect for you, uh, especially at your age. A lot of people at your age really don't get into writing books. Most of them most people are a little older. I found myself I started mine in my late 40s, and like I said, I finished it in 2010, and I really got into the characters in the book, and that's something that any good writer, if you're going to get if you're going to have a good storyline, you got to have the characters to stand tall in the storylines, and I think this one with your book will do excellent.
I hope so. I mean, if it really wasn't for my illustrator, if he didn't see what I had vision in my head, I don't know if this book would have went anywhere. It might have been just another book sitting there, might get a sale every once a year or something. But I briefly described the character, and as soon as he gave me the first photo of the sketch of it, it was everything that I visioned for a children's book. I mean, I know maybe adults might read it, but the way I wrote the book too, I wrote it to be more of an actual good story. It's not one that you go to Walmart, spend $15 on, you pick it up, you've read it within a minute, you don't get much from it. I actually, I have a lot of good story written inside the book itself. So I just want to make sure that my reader gets their money's worth out of the book. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all we can hope for. Any of us as authors sure is. You're talking about a encounter that you and your fiance had. Would you care to elaborate on that a little?
yeah, so back in early, I don't remember the exact month. It might have been February, March, April of 2014. Um, I back up one day before that. We had a bunch of coyotes in the area. We lived with her grandparents in their old 1850s home, and we had a small little dog, little Yorkie mixed dog. And of course, small dogs think they're big shots. And he wandered off. I guess he found a pack of coyotes at the time, and we couldn't find him. We called for him for a long time there. And when I was out there looking through a shed, I heard a whimper behind me, and I guess he crawled himself back. But um, he was in bad health at that time. He had a punctured rib through his lung, so we had to put him down that night. And the next night, my fiance Rachel, it kind of upset her, and we kind of wanted a little revenge on the coyotes. Clean them out. We'd have population, so we had a bunch of 22s. I had a 22 rifle. I had 35 rounds. She had a 22 rifle, and then I had a 22 handgun. In my eyes, it's coyotes. I can pop a shot. It's not a problem. And while we was loading the guns up, we heard the coyotes, and I was like, okay, so they're awfully close. They're in the fields, behind our grandfather's workshop. And while sitting there trying to load everything up and get it all going, it sounded like a coyote was. Sorry.
Sorry,
It,
go
it's
ahead.
it. No, you're fine. It sounded like a dog got ran over by a car, and it was an ungodly sound. I can tell one was hurt.
I'm doing a podcast right
And
now.
before we knew it, we ran around the corner, and I had my flashlight, and I looked up at the tree line, and there was this like random, not a brush, but a random pile of trees that's growing.
Come on now,
It was a
man.
sinkhole, and as soon as I shot my flashlight up at it, all I seen was these glowing orange eyes, and I could not figure it out. And we was about 100 or so feet away. I mean, I was awfully close, and my flashlight was on like the spotlight. It was dead center, and it was such a dark figure. And we just kept walking closer and closer, and we was about 75 feet. And I had that light beaming on this thing, and and I do know orange eyes. It was glowing orange eyes. They had a good distance between them, and I can just see an outline of something. I just could not figure it out. So we laid on the ground, and we both looked through our scopes, and plain in day, we seen everything: the arms, the legs, the hair. I couldn't see any facial features, but I mean, I can see an outline of a human, what I thought. And I was like, man, this thing is awfully huge. I was like, it's got to be a person. It has to be. So I'm sitting there yelling at it constantly. I'm saying, I'm going to shoot you. You're on our property. You need to get off. And it just occasionally just look away, and then I would yell again. It'll look right back at me. I'm like, okay, I don't understand what this is. I just didn't, it didn't click. And so we got up, and we sat there for a good 2 minutes or 3 minutes at that time yelling at this thing. And it just would not, it didn't care. It didn't want to move. So we got up, and we was about 50 feet away. I mean, we was pretty much on it. And as soon as I didn't even need my scope anymore. I can see everything up on this thing. All the hair is just like a dark, dark, blackish brown. And we laid back down again, and we looked at it through our scopes, and we could see more details on it. It just, it was terrifying. It was almost like facing a bear, but you have a toothpick. And I looked at my girl. I was like, "Should we shoot it? I mean, what do we do?" I was like, "What if it comes near us?" And she was like, "I mean, I could shoot it, but I don't think we're gonna do anything to it." I was like, "No, I don't." I was like, "Let's just watch this for right now." And I kept yelling at it, kept talking to it, and then right when we got up to get a little bit closer, it bolted off to the right, and it ran through that field within 10 seconds. And I ran that same field the next day, the same distance to where it ran, and it took me about 32 seconds to run it. And I ran it as fast as I could. And I wasn't in shape, but I'm not obese or anything. I can run. But this thing was just so fast and so quick. And as soon as it ran to the field, there was a barbed wire fence and then a brush of tree kind of coming to a T. And it ran to the corner of the fence line right before it hit the tree line, and it just looked back at us one last time. And at that point, it just walked right into the woods. And for whatever reason, we packed everything up. We went right back inside because we didn't know what we just seen for sure. And it's one of those things. It's just unless you're there and you have that much time looking at one. And I think the only reason why it even stayed there as long as it did because the coyotes were in that area. I guess one got too close to it. It either kicked it, hit it, something. I don't know what it was. And I know the coyotes didn't go to his left due to the fact that he kept looking to the right, and where we came from, they would have passed us easily. So I think he was probably giving them enough time to get away so he can go his own route too. I think it was just a
Now,
perfect time for us to get that long of a view.
any judgment for his size? I mean, I mean, how tall? I mean, how big do you actually think it was as far as
We
height?
Where we could see there was a tree branch that grew behind, well, that was behind his head, and I seen it's the same tree branch, and I went to the tree branch the next day. We did measure that. We put it closely to about, I think it was 7'9" to 7'10". It was right there. I mean, yeah, we were laying on the ground, kind of looking up at an angle, also 50 to 65 feet away. It was right around, I would have to say, at least 7'10". I mean, this thing was huge. And the only thing I think of, and a lot of people's like, "Oh, you sure it wasn't a man in a suit?" Maybe if he had some stilts on and he was a sprint runner, but I
Yeah,
know
but
what I've seen.
not out and not running across the field in some
No,
stilts and a suit. Like no, not as fast as it was.
no. And the only neighbors to her grandparents at the time was a really hefty man and an elderly couple. It was their son. So I know for a fact it wasn't them. And nobody's just going to come out there, play with some coyotes, hurt one, and
And
then just stand there to watch us.
and just hope for somebody to be out there to see them.
Right.
Exactly.
I
Because
mean,
we wasn't out there yelling, hooting, and hollering. We was, on a picnic table, loading up the guns real quick, getting everything ready, make sure I had it all on me. And I mean, I had 70 rounds. I had another 20 on the handgun, and she had 20. I honestly think if we shot every single shot, it still wouldn't stop this thing. Like, the size of it was pretty big, and it's just like I said, it's like messing with a bear with a toothpick. I mean, you get what you're gonna get. I mean, yeah, with a perfect shot, but now that I've gotten older, and this is a long time ago, at the time, people at that time period, man, if I shot a Bigfoot, I could be famous. I'd finally prove that a Bigfoot exists. But now that I've gotten older, and then just recently when I moved out here, had new experiences and another new sighting of a whole different one that's over 2.5 hours away from where I used to live. I respect these things now to a point where I don't want to mess with them. Yeah, I have, a gifting tree going on. I'm having interaction. I'm getting a lot of calls. It's the fact
yeah, but
that I
that's
respect it.
positive. That's positive interaction, though. I mean,
Yeah.
what would have really? I mean, other than the possibility of a body, what would have came out of shooting the creature? I mean, did you feel threatened at all? I mean,
Honestly, it was like if you
or didn't even think.
I I felt fear. I didn't feel like he was angry with me or he or she. It was
It was more of
fear.
a shock. Yeah. You
Yeah.
didn't know what was going on.
No. It struck fear into me so bad that I was shaking while sitting there, and I didn't really want to move. I don't even know why I kept getting closer and closer. At first I was like, is this a costume? Is this a statue? Is this a joke? Like I know Bigfoot. I've seen Bigfoot movies. I've heard of, I've read Bigfoot. It's just I'm looking at something that I can't explain at that time. And of course, contacting the Finding Bigfoot show, and they came out there, had a little interview. They said that they said it was not enough evidence to really do a show, which I understand because her grandparents been out there 20 something years or more, and they've never seen that. Again, they don't go out at night. It was one of those situations, but they did enlighten me and told me that within a few miles from there, that entire Boy Scout troop, which I think was roughly around 10 to 12 kids and 4 adults, all seeing the exact same thing. There was at a campfire, and this thing walked straight across, and they had a view of it for about 20 foot or 20 feet walking, and they all had flashlights too shining on this thing, and they said they seen the exact same thing. And I didn't even know that. And it was around the same time. I think it was only about 2 months apart. Of course, they hear Bigfoot. The first thing you always say is you're smoking something. You didn't see what you thought you seen. You seen a deer. So I know the ridicule that comes behind it, especially telling people you seen what you seen. And at this time, I mean, I joined the Bigfoot groups for a reason because most of the people actually believe in this or want to believe. But so
Okay. So, what's going on your property?
well, we moved out here right before the COVID hit back in I think March. And it was fine and dandy. Like I said, I can go out to the creek at night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I'd lay outside, and it didn't bother me. And then we started hearing like a lot of hooting, whooping, screams in the woods, and I was like, I've never heard that before. Didn't think anything about it. And then a few weeks later, I was coming home. It was right around 6 or 7 o'clock at night. It was still dark, and I drive with my brights on, and it was right before my property. There was a field, and then there's open fields on left and right, and then it goes to wood lines all the way until you get to my road and you turn, then it's my property. I'm right on the highway. And I kept seeing this thing as I was looking over, and I looked at it like 5 times, and I just double taken, triple taken, and right when I looked at it, right when I was passing it, there was this tall, reddish brown thing standing on 2 feet. Now, at first, I thought it was a cow, kind of standing up, standing straight on at me, and I just seen the front legs, and I just kept looking at it. I'm like, no, that thing has arms, and I slammed on my brakes so hard, and what I called Austin Powers it, in the middle of the road. I just kept on shimmying back and forth. And as soon as I turned around, I seen it the last second walking into the wood line against a creek. And I was like, okay, so I have now seen my second one ever for sure. And I was like, I've never seen one reddish brown. I mean, regardless, I've only seen, I guess, now 2 in my life, but I never knew a reddish brown one. And I sat there, I was like, was it a cow? Was it something else? But there's no cow pasture. The nearest, I think, cow pasture is about 5 miles away from my house. So it's about 10 minutes to get to that one. And sorry, I don't know a cow that can run that fast and on 2 legs. So it wasn't
I would
tall
like to meet that cow.
it wasn't super tall either. Like when I passed it and the angle that I seen it, they used to have hay bales weeks prior to that in the field. And every morning I seen the hay bales, every afternoon I seen the same hay bales. And it stood roughly a foot to 2 foot taller than an average hay bale. Now I think hay bales.
You talking about the big round hay bales?
Now, there was no hay bales at the time, but when you keep seeing the same hay bale every single day, and how much taller this thing roughly was.
Hang on.
Oh, Lord, Ricky.
You got
Get the
dogs
zoo.
barking, phone calls.
Come on in, Sam, Rick.
Sorry about that, Alex.
No, you're fine.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm back.
Get your child.
Hey, I'm telling you.
He's got a spoilt Chiweenie.
Oh yeah, this dog is he's spoiled beyond belief.
He's bipolar, is what he is.
Yeah, he is. I'll tell you how spoiled he is. I put his food out this morning, and had to sit and hand feed him. So yeah, he's full pup.
So,
But what I was saying
how,
was,
how,
it
go ahead.
was, I think an average hay bale is maybe around 5 foot, maybe a little bit taller than that. And this thing, I want to say it was at least 2 foot taller. So it was on a shorter side, I guess you would say.
7
And
foot, 6.5.
I put it around 7 foot tall, give or take. But it had, I would say, beautiful reddish brown burnt hair. Like it was a little bit longer than what, pictures or the famous Patty video. It was longer than that. And I just didn't know what it was. Now people said, was it a bear? Yes, I do live in Tennessee, but in this part, I don't think there's been a bear sighting in this area as far as I know. So, and I again don't know bears that run that far on two legs that fast. Because I
Yeah.
turned around pretty quickly. I mean, I say Austin powered it, but I turned around within 2 turns and I was right at it, and it ran to the creek. Now it's
Now,
not
what
my
kind
property, so I didn't really want to go on there and look around, which I did go on there. So I couldn't find any
what
footprints.
kind of distance do you think you were looking at?
The first sighting was probably within 40 feet from the road. And then right when I turned around, it was probably pushing around 125 feet. So,
So it's a
and
matter of seconds.
yeah, it was a matter of seconds. And I don't know for a fact if it was facing me at that time or it just walked, across the road or was walking away at that time. So I really don't know. I mean, yes, I was speeding a little bit on that road because it's the last little stretch before my house. I'm going like 60 miles per hour. And so I was just like, holy crap. Like I looked and I was like, okay, I don't know what that was. I'm turning around and I slammed my brakes. Everything hit the floor. I mean, I hit my brakes pretty hard because I was like, no, I'm not missing this one. But and then after that, the howls started getting really bad. I messaged Ricky about it, but it was at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got woken up. I'm a heavy sleeper. I have 7 alarm clocks all within a minute apart going off to even wake me up. And me and the girl woke up at 3 o'clock. I was like 3:01, and we just could not figure what was going on. And I thought it was alarm clock or a TV going off. It was loud. I mean, I do live in a camper, but the way this thing sounded, and I say it was like a whoop scream, is very similar to my recordings that I got the last time. Now I don't know, since it was so close that I was more clear than the recent one was a lot further away, and it had more of an echo to it, and it wasn't precise what I can hear, but it was awfully close. And the only way to describe it is the biggest Tibetan mastiff dog barking within 10 feet from your ear in a hollow tube. Like it was so loud, and you can feel the vibration off your chest. And that's inside the camper. I mean, it was loud. The animals are going crazy. The cats were going crazy. The dog was barking. You know, I didn't think about grabbing my phone, trying to record anything, and ran out the door. Had my little 25 handgun on me. Is just what I grabbed real quick. And as soon as I got out that door and as soon as I opened up the door, the sound echoed so loudly into the camper that I don't know how anybody could sleep through it. And as soon as you get outside and get out in the open, it was probably pushing around 200 feet away. It was right across my property, across the highway within the wood line right there. And I do live in a ravine, and it was so loud and echoey. And I don't know how to explain it. And it just kept going and going. And it went on for about, I think, 20 minutes. And it just would not stop. And again, that terrified me more because I don't know if I made it mad. I don't know if it was mad at me. I don't know if it was trying to call for something. I don't know. And I
Now,
took my hand.
what part of
But
Tennessee do you actually live in?
I live in Hohenwald.
Where at?
It's like saying hole in a wall. It's Hohenwald. It's
What's
Hohen.
is
It's
that? I mean, what
southeast
part of
Tennessee.
Tennessee?
It's
Southeast.
southeast of Nashville. You have to take
Okay.
65 south, leaving Nashville, almost like going to Alabama, and then you
Okay.
take immediate right.
Okay.
But and then I looked it up the next day. Well, back up real quick. Well, it scared me so bad, and I didn't know what it was going to continue doing. I don't know why I did it, but I did anyway. But I took my gun and shot to the ground beside me and shot 5 shots off. At that point, it shut up, and as soon as I did that, all I hear is a bunch of trees and brush moving, and I shine my flashlight up at the tree line across the road because there was a clearing where they cleared out part of my land to do a telephone line or the cable line, electric line, and the tree line across the hill, all I see is all this brush and small trees moving back and forth as this thing was running through it. So I was like, okay, you was awfully close. So I waited a few days after that, and then I started the whole gifting tree idea. I was like, maybe I can make amends a little bit, saying I'm kind of sorry. I was like, maybe I'm losing my mind. I don't know anymore. Like I'm seeing stuff, I'm hearing stuff, and I don't know. I don't have a book to tell me exactly what this is. I don't have an expert out there saying this is what it is. It's just a series of random things happening that you think it is what it is. And
Yeah.
so I lit the gifting tree, and it was a 3-tier fruit basket. It was hung up in a tree. It was 2.5 feet off of a tree that it was hanging on. It was the bottom basket was pushing around, I would say, 7 feet off the ground, and then past that it was like pushing 8.5 feet up in the air. Past that on the top part, I left some apples. I left some bananas in the tree. I left small little gifts in it on each level just to see, maybe catch its eye. Something shiny, something makes noise. I don't know what they like. I don't have, a book. And then I checked on it periodically, and then I came back and checked on it the night that I heard all the howls. I checked it the next day on the howls, and then that's when, because I heard more howls following week again, but they were distant. But the next day I checked it, and one of the apples were missing, and there was a jawbone in place of the basket, and that was on the bottom one. So it got my attention
Rick,
more. I knew something was up, and then Ricky told me to put in some carrots, which I just did that yesterday. Haven't checked on it today.
I know they like peanut butter also, so I'd throw a little
Yeah,
peanut
that was
butter,
something.
jar
Yeah,
of
that was
peanut
something
butter
I
in
was
there.
going to mention. Got to.
Because
Did
when they
you?
actually reach in, if they don't eat the whole jar of peanut butter, you may actually have fingerprints. Yep.
That's if they don't
Right.
take the container,
That's if they don't take the
Right.
container.
which
So
is fine with me,
the
honestly.
what about the sand we talked about? Have
I
you?
haven't I haven't done the sand thing yet. I do plan on it. It is part of a property that is connected to mine. It's like I'm borderline on my property, and I'm trying not to get too much closer to other people's property because they do hunt on that one. I've noticed they've been on that property in the mornings, so I don't know if I leave, peanut butter, and if they get in trouble for bait. If I'm technically baiting deer, which I know a deer can't reach it, and I just don't want to push boundaries with neighbors on
Yeah.
my land.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of cautious with what I do because right
Yeah.
now I don't. Right now the area it's in, they can't get to it the way I get. They also take four-wheelers, and it's probably within a few hundred feet from where they unload their trucks in the morning to get on the property. So it's pushing right there at it where I don't really want to bait deers over there because I don't need to, I don't want to destroy their chance right now.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Now, any other things that you've had happen on your property? I mean,
I forgot this too. I think it was last week. I was hearing a bunch of trees moving in the background of my property. It was midday. All the leaves are falling right now, so everything's really crunchy. And me and my fiance heard some leaves moving, and I just couldn't figure out where it's coming from. It was getting further away. So I walked on this other brush pile. It's where they push all the trees on the property into a big pile right now before I got out there, and I can't see past that. So I went around the brush pile, and I can hear the leaves moving pretty far. It's further now than it was before. And I heard them stop, and I didn't know if it was just gone at my distance and I can't see or hear anymore. So I picked up a rock that I seen on the ground and started knocking on the tree. I was like, I need to do something. I'm either losing my mind or I need to do something more. So I started knocking on the tree, and I did that for about 20 seconds. And then it was so quiet, so peaceful, no wind, no, I mean, there's nothing, no birds. And I heard a slight knock back, and I was just like, I was like, that's not an echo. So I did it a little bit louder, and then I heard it again. And I told Rachel, I was like, I just can't think of the word. I used my hand gestures to tell her to come here, and when she got closer, I told her, I was like, just listen. And I knocked on the tree again. And then I heard the distinctive, it was 3 knocks, a pause, 1 knock, and a pause, and then 3 more knocks. And I was like, okay, that's definitely not an echo. It's not a woodpecker. I was like, this sounds like either wood or, some really hard knuckles on a tree. And so I tried the same thing real quick. I knocked on the tree, and it was actually louder than I thought. And this specific tree is a lot louder. And then I heard the same knocks again. And I just kept doing that back and forth. I mean, I was knocking, it was knocking, I was knocking, and then it would wait a little bit, then knock right back. And I'm like, I was like, there's no neighbors on that property up there, not on that portion. I was like, I know that it's not someone hammering. I know it's not a woodpecker. And I was like, this was very distinctive. It was just the way you can hear the sound, the way the land was flat. It sounded flatter. It wasn't up in the air. It was just weird. And at that point, we had to go anyway. We needed to go to town. So I was like, okay, I'll knock to you later. So, and just left. That was kind of the strangest thing. I mean, I've heard about wood knocking and all that, but to have a constant response, I don't know if I was making sense on my knocks. I don't know if there's a pattern that they have to go by. So I started doing the 3, pause 1, pause 3, just to see if it was a pattern. And yeah, it kept doing the same pattern over and over. But whatever it is, male or female, multiple, young, old, I don't know what it is. It is very active on near my property, so it's kind of exciting, but at the same time nerve-wracking, because people tell me don't do the gifting tree. That if you start gifting them, they can get angry if you don't, or if you forget, they can get a little aggressive. They can go after animals. I mean, honestly, like I told them, if something happens to me or something on the property, is that not some of the best evidence you can get right now? Like, I don't know what else you want other than a body, which I'm not going to produce. If I can get footage, I'll get footage. If I can get more audio, I'll get more audio. I don't want to do trail cams right now because too many people told me not to because of the infrared, that they apparently can see that at night.
Trail cams, they never, I mean, they
Well,
Always
in some
blurry.
instances,
you're never going to get a clear photo with a
No.
trail cam.
in some instances, trail cams can work fairly decent, especially tracking the game that is on the area, other
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
Sasquatch. It kind of gives you a base of what something the size of Sasquatch would actually have as a food source on the property. That's one reason, if I go into a new property, I like setting up trail cam because that gives me an idea of what type of animals that Sasquatch has to feed on in that area. Another
Right.
thing is, go
Sorry.
ahead.
I was going to say, right now, the only things I've seen or heard is other than a few squirrels. I have an occasional armadillo on the property, but I haven't seen one of those in about 8 months, or actually like 6 months. I haven't seen a raccoon. I did have a random visit from a rooster. There's not even a farm near me. I don't know where this rooster came from. I have some pictures of it too, and it came back. It was on the property 2 days ago, and it just came back this morning, and it was all over the place, cockadoodle and all. Which I don't mind chickens, I don't mind roosters. I was planning on getting some, but the fact that I have a wild rooster, there's no one nearby, and the only neighbors that I have is up on the hill, and I know for a fact they don't have chickens. I've never heard them, never seen them,
So,
so I don't know where that rooster
he's
came from.
he's traveled a little ways to get to you.
He has, which we just put up some bird feeders, and I throw out bird seed all the time, and that's where it was at. It was eating the bird seed. So I was like, well, I guess I got me a pet rooster now. But other than that, I don't hear coyotes. I mean, I know there's deer around. I don't see any. I haven't seen any personally, but I know that they're down the road about 8 miles or so. Other than that, I
Now,
don't see a lot of game on our property.
are there any water sources around close by? Any creeks,
Yeah,
rivers, lakes, ponds?
there's what I call a a wet creek. I guess when it really rains heavy, it'll flow for a few days. It's just a runoff from all the mountains leads onto my property, into one big one, and it's dug down on some of the parts of the creek that's about, I don't know, 15 feet below the surface. So there's some that are pretty deep, but they're dried right now. Unless it rains, then it'll flow. And sometimes if it rains hard for 2 days, it'll flow for 2 weeks straight. But that is about the only water source I know of. Now there is a
Yes,
river that's about 15 miles away.
Yeah, but it's
But right now, my
amazing, guys.
property is the only water.
It's amazing what the distance these animals travel as far as getting the water source, getting the food source, whatever. I've
Which
always
I'm sure they're a river or creek, something that you don't know of around in the area.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they typically do stay, not super close to some type of source of water, but they're like us. They have to drink water also. So I mean, that's one thing that you look for a lot of times, with sightings is what you have around in the area. Why
Yeah.
why would they be there? What do they, far as what like Ricky was saying, their forage and stuff like that. I mean, so that's
Yeah.
the reason I was asking that question.
I'm surrounded by woods. I mean, there's woods everywhere. I mean, before you even get to the town, there's a protective forest of more woods. So, but what I'm questioning also, and I've noticed there's a lot of people lately posting videos and audio clips of the exact same howl scream that I have. Now, my only question is, I've not been on this property for a full year yet. I started in March, and then it's now November. My thing is, and I'm just questioning this, and I would love for someone to elaborate on this. But with everyone hearing these howls all of a sudden around the exact same time period, could it possibly be a mating season for them as well, or something?
Sure,
Because never heard it prior to
sure.
this, and now everyone of different states are hearing the exact same sounds of potential Bigfoots. And I mean, I know deer and all that, they kind of have the same cycles, I guess you would say. But it's just kind of a curiosity thing that now all of a
let,
sudden people are recording so much.
let me give you a pointer on that. We had a guest on the show last week, and I consider to be probably one of the best Bigfoot researchers that is still living today. Mr. Tom Cantrell. You can go on his website, order one of his books. He's got what he say, like 12, 13 books that he's published.
I think
But
13.
they're
Very intelligent man when it
yeah,
comes
very
to
very
the
intelligent man.
scientific side of these creatures. Some fantastic evidence or theories, and then he he explained some stuff last week on that I never even thought about. I mean, in a scientific form, I guess. So, I mean, far as that question, I mean, me personally, I don't see why not. Why it couldn't be some type of mating call.
Well, it most definitely could be. This is a time of year that the deer and most of your animals go into rut. So why not? I mean, this definitely could be what you're experiencing there on your property. Uh, um, but you
Heck, you
know,
could have a mating ground around you.
Yeah, I'll
but
probably
but
end up having footage that nobody else ever had.
what 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 you were explaining about your gifting tree and this creature coming and living, coming and actually leaving that jawbone, taking the apple and leaving that jawbone. That is explicit behavior that a Sasquatch does. And I've been doing studies on these things for the past 40 years, and I've talked to numerous people. There's a farm over LJ that a lady told me that they actually come and they'll take eggs out of her hen house. Just she's got it just at the back of her house, about 20, 30 yards from the back of her house, and these things will actually come and they'll take eggs out of her hen house, and they'll leave anything she said from maybe a couple of fish. They've had them she's had them leave dead raccoons, uh, just all kind of stuff in the hen nest where they're taking the eggs from. So she said she got to where she started putting a basket out back behind the hen house with eggs in it, and they would actually come and get this basket, get the whole basket, but there was always something left there in return. And this is just a habit of these creatures, and this is what they do.
They're smarter than we can think. I know that. I mean, they're hiding.
Oh,
They're still hiding. They're the championship of hide and seek. I mean, I think they've just been watching us for way too long. See the destruction, what they do, what we do to the environment. They kind of know. Anytime they do
far
see someone, they might be shooting an animal, and that's what they know from us.
far as their behavior, I mean, some of the stuff that I've heard, stories doing this and taking people's interviews and stuff, they their behavior varies, but it's so similar across the board. Um,
Oh, most
Especially like
definitely.
I mean, I think they're a lot like humans. Every one of them has their personalities. Every one of
Yeah.
them's going to be a little different, but some of their behavior is very similar in how they react to things and their interaction behavior, especially as far as like gifting and stuff like that. I know that they like marbles for some reason. And a lot of times, from what I've heard, if you leave marbles, a lot of times they'll leave rocks in place of it. I don't know if it's because they think the marble's some type of rock, but that's a very common behavior with marbles.
I'll probably end up
Right.
trying that too.
I was also telling Blake that there was a guy here that I'd interviewed a few months back that he'd been going into a state park up in Tennessee, and he said that he'd been having problems with them actually 10, 11 o'clock at night, them throwing rocks into his camp. Well, he had got an idea, so he said he went to Walmart and he bought a basket of tennis balls. He took these tennis balls back, and he said that the next weekend he went up there. Sure enough, said about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, they started throwing rocks into his camp. So he started throwing these tennis balls back into the woods at them. Well, he said he could actually hear these things running back and forth through the woods. The next morning, he said what really blew his mind, the next morning when he got up and left, went back to his car, that all these tennis balls, every one of them, he said, that he had threw into the woods that night was lined up across the hood of his car.
It's almost like they're
So,
children at the same time. But I've heard the rock throwing. I don't know if what that means. I don't know if it's you're in my
It's
area,
more
I
of a
don't like you, or I want to talk
well,
to you, but I don't know.
they're not. This was a discussion we were having last week. You bring that up. They're not violent creatures at nature. Like when they do stuff like that it's not necessarily they're trying to hurt you. It's more of a hey, you're either in my space, get out, so forth. What?
Sorry. I was listening to you, but when I read the comment, I just couldn't help to laugh again.
oh,
On that question, I have no clue. I'm
It,
I have heard.
get
I've
that on
heard a lot of
recording.
researchers. I've heard a lot of other researchers count doing that, but I don't think nobody's good.
I mean, I imagine they fart. Every creature does, but I don't know how many people have actually heard it.
On Finding
I
Bigfoot, they
thought
always have Bobo just calls to see if he can do a fart call.
maybe they need to talk to Bobo.
Hmm?
But they're not.
That's Mr. Nathaniel.
Yeah.
But they're not violent creatures in nature. But they're like every other animal. You put them in a situation, whether if they have young around or they feel threatened. They're just like us. They're like every other animal. It's an
No,
instinct to survive.
it is.
So if they feel threatened, they're going to return the
Yeah.
same feeling or whatever. Um,
Hey guys, I'm gonna put up a couple of pictures here. Oh,
but
And I agree. I agree.
far
I
as
mean,
like
if you,
the rock throwing and stuff like that, I think that's more of just a warning or a something to grab your attention.
I do believe it. Yeah,
yeah,
that
these
was
are some of the illustrations.
my illustrator did a good job. That first picture
Yeah,
with his name on it, that was actually I described a scene of Bobby Bigfoot eating a bunch of berries. Here's a sound, looks up mid eating, and then a photo gets taken of him, and that's all I described it as. And he came back with that image, and I was like, I dead on what I want. That's what I want to go with, and
that's
he did a
awesome.
phenomenal job on this
I really
little.
like that.
This was like a little sneak peek poster, which I kind of sketched it out for him. He changed it up slightly for me, which has turned out a lot better. And the colors on it is what I love.
Look, my 5-year-old will probably be your first purchase of the book.
Yeah,
He
this was just some
loves
stuff.
Bigfoot.
Hey man, I'm telling you what, it's awesome, man. It really is.
Um, if you don't mind, whenever it does get published, let Ricky know because my son would love to have it.
Oh, I will. Yeah, that's the gifting basket. That was the first day. That's right when I hung it up. And that was me taking a photo of it with my hands kind of like, above my face a little higher than my head.
Right.
Which I left,
Okay,
a
here.
little sparkly Christmas ornament of a castle. I had a little wooden stick with some bells on it that are shiny. Then I found a random plastic snowflake water bottle. Like, I don't know what they like. I don't know if they like certain colors. So I just try to
Well,
make it
hey,
kind of
that's
different.
the research part of it. You don't know until you try. You may try something that you don't think is going to work and end up, yielding good evidence. So
Yeah. I know Ricky's got
This
the
is
picture too of that bone in the basket. And, I even had a hard time. Like, if I actually had to reach into the basket, I had a hard time getting that jawbone out. Yeah, that was when I put the carrots in it. That was just after the jawbone. There should be one more I think I sent.
Ricky, what's your
yeah.
professional opinion on the jawbone? What do you think it is? I think it's a possum or a raccoon, but
Well, the length of the bone and all, I would say, and from the molars and all, I would say that more than likely I don't know, a little probably too narrow for or a little too long for a raccoon. I would say probably maybe Alex had it right to start with. I think maybe a coyote jawbone or something of that nature.
Yeah, because I got a tape measure out. I'm trying to measure like where my hand was with the bone, and it puts it right around 4 inches long. So I don't know if that can help someone else, because I know a hand is different for people. It could be a small, big hand, but right now it's about
Right.
4 inches long. So someone can help me on that and determine.
yeah, if anybody knows, can identify what that is, let us know.
And that's the area I figured is nice and flat enough, and you can see the highway behind it.
Oh yeah,
And that's
they're nothing putting a jawbone in that. They're not. No. As
no,
high as
and I'm
that is,
actually, and I'm standing, back up on the hill a little bit,
you're
and that's
uphill. Yeah,
still,
yeah, yeah.
Right. And you have that thing actually suspended out on the limb, don't you?
yeah, it's suspended on a limb, and then there's a rope coming from that branch going all the way over about 20 something feet. I just wanted the rope away from it, not just hanging on the same tree, because people's like,
Right.
oh, something can crawl up the rope, and I've heard everything possible that something can do. So
Well, you've done a very good job, of erecting that thing. I've had researchers tell me that they wouldn't leave it in a basket like that. They just take apples and like stick them on a sharp stick on the tree or whatever. Only problem with that is you have creatures coming up, climbing the
yeah,
trees, whatever, and been able to get to the fruit, get to whatever you've got on there.
My
Whereas the way you've got it situated here, it's going to take something, uh, a big animal to be able to get to that.
well,
Yeah,
my,
and
my
that's
whole thing with gifting is sure if something takes something, there are multiple reasons it could be.
yeah,
They're animal, whatever kind of animal. But when there's something left in return, that's when it gets weird. Because
that was my first my impression. As soon as I looked up, I'm like, what is that up in the tree? And then I know Ricky's got that picture. I believe I thought I sent it, and you can see it's kind of sitting in the basket. And then I was sitting there looking in the basket, like, now what's missing, or if anything's missing. I noticed one of the apples were missing. I'm like, okay, so it took an apple. I was like, but it didn't take anything else. It didn't touch anything else. It was really weird that it took an apple, left a jawbone. And I've asked so many people, I'm like, is a jawbone necessarily a bad thing? And then I had a few people say they talked to some, Bigfoot experts, as expert can get, of doing research, and they said that a lot of times they'll carry jawbones around, like rabbit jawbones and all that, almost like a fidget. They gotta handle it, they gotta play with it or something. They said a lot of times from other people's, I guess, experiences of leaving gifts and all, that they actually do most times get a jawbone in return. Now, I didn't know anything about jawbones. I didn't even know if a jawbone was something like a bad juju for me. Like, this is what's gonna happen.
Oh, no,
I
no,
don't know.
no, no.
I mean,
Man,
I
I'm going
don't
to tell
know if
you,
they have meanings on bones.
you know, the longer you do this with the gifting tree, the more items, the various items that you're liable to find in that thing.
oh
You
yeah,
know,
feathers. I mean, they're all kinds of stuff that they leave. I mean, ain't no telling what you'll get.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'll
You
take.
may get it.
I'll make sure, like, I've got them all separated right now, like the jawbones put up right now, because anything I get is going into the same little box right now for what I have. But I know someone said, oh, I've gotten feathers before, and then they had trail cam set up, and then go back on it, and there's an actual bird in their gifting area that flew away and a feather left. I'm
Mhm.
trying to be mindful on what is left, so I don't start losing my mind and get really into this
You don't
thing.
want to
And
think too much into it.
yeah, so I check back on it occasionally. If I get something, I get something. I hear sound. Now I'm hearing sounds at night and hoots and all that. I was like, okay. And then the night that I heard it, that I actually recorded it, I left my house and went down. I kept seeing this cop going up and down the highway with his spotlight on, looking up in the woodland. And like I said, this thing went on for like an hour. It just would not shut up. I mean, this time was just nonstop, even longer. I mean, of course, I didn't shoot at the ground and scare it off, of course. And I made sure to record as best as I could. And when I got in the car to go down the road, I just see these two cars. There's a car and a pickup truck on the side of the road, and there's an old man like standing outside his car with his phone up in the air recording stuff. And I'm like, "You're hearing the same thing?" And he was like, "Yeah, I stopped." I don't know what he stopped for. I don't know if he was getting something and his windows were down, and he heard all the calls. And he said, "I've been out here 20 years, never once heard this sound in my entire life." He's like, I wanted to make sure I can record some of this. And he's like, my phone's messing up, but I've got a few recordings of it. And there was a pickup truck behind him. He said he thought he was, I guess his car died or whatever. He was trying to help him. And he said as soon as he stopped, he heard the calls. So he just rolled down his windows to listen to it. And then the cop came back and said he's never heard these sounds in his entire life on the forest and off the forest. And he just told us, don't go out in the woods. He's like, just be safe. He's like, I'm going to head out of here. And he left. But even the cop was kind of, suspicious of it, so he was up and down. So
He didn't want any part of it.
nope. And I know, like, I'm writing a Bigfoot book, and I've had some people ask me, is like, am I just saying this stuff to promote books and give a little bit more of a push behind this book? And it's not like that. I started writing the book before all this stuff started happening in my area. Like, I heard the sounds, but it just wasn't one of those things like, oh, I'm gonna use this for it. I took what happened in my past of seeing the first Bigfoot, and I loosely, and I do mean loosely, basically Bigfoot children's story, and that's where I went with. And all of a sudden now I got another one in this area, and it's just like, how many do we have that we never knew?
Uh,
Right.
how
Well,
many? we asked that question last week. Do you remember how many he said that they think that we have? Was it 18,000?
Yeah, 18,000 across the United States.
Yeah.
And,
Uh,
and something to say on that too. There's so many, but so little evidence at the point of proving one truly 100%. I mean, they always said without a body, you're just never going to have the
Well,
full proof.
the thing
And
about it is, it's been proven to be real in some
yeah,
aspects, but far as scientifically,
yeah.
no,
And
no.
it's like, Todd Standing. I don't know if you've seen his interview or his video with Fighting Bigfoot. He said it don't matter if you have the highest definition video, the best video
Mhm.
possible, until a body
Without a
is
body, you have
produced,
nothing.
you never. I mean, you have a story, you have your witness, you have pictures, you have footprints, hair samples, blood samples, whatever you name it. Scientific comes back saying we don't know what it is. It's an animal. We can't prove it's nothing that we have in our system. But again, until you have one, you're taking a selfie with it. I don't even know if that's going to work for some people. So, I mean,
well,
unless
guys,
one's
I'm gonna
picking
tell
me
you.
up and with one hand, I
Well,
mean, people are going to still say it's a costume.
These things. I went from being a believer to a knower back in 1981 when I had my first sighting. I actually saw one of these things on the creek, and while we were float fishing, just a younger juvenile, probably 5.5, 6 foot tall, thing covered in hair. Was not a bear. This thing was crouched over at the water's edge with its hands down in the water. When I first saw it, I thought it was a bear, but then I got to thinking, no, this thing is crouched over like a man crouching over, not like a bear. And a bear, most of the time they come up to an area like that. Uh, if they're getting a drink, whatever, they're still on all fours with their head dropped like a dog does. Uh,
Yeah.
this thing, no, this thing was crouched like a man crouching down and had its hands down in the water, or what I thought was paws at the time. But when it stood up, it stood bipedal, uh, straight up on two legs, looked right in our direction. And the things I noticed about it the most was when its hands come up, it was actually hands similar to ours, about twice the size of my hands. Uh, the knuckles, the fingers were actually covered in black hair down to about the middle knuckle. I'll never forget that. Longish, purple looking fingernails on it. Uh, the weirdest thing I ever saw, when this thing saw us, it turned, bolted into the woods. Cover was probably 30 foot, 40 foot behind it, and this thing covered the distance in maybe 2 bounds and was gone. Uh,
Yeah. And
without
pretty
a
fast.
Yeah, I mean, man, they're super fast. They really are. But
I mean,
my point on this is, I went from believing in Bigfoot to actually knowing that these creatures exist. In my
yeah.
heart, in my mind, I know that these creatures exist. Blake and I have had interactions with them throughout the years. Blake's actually saw a family of three of them. So uh,
I remember that.
I'm actually a knower. I know that these things exist. To me, they don't have to produce a body for me to know
yeah.
that these creatures are out there.
That's what I was just about to say. Is that without a body, we have nothing. But at the same time, most of your people that are involved in the Bigfoot world are no kill groups or no kill organizations. Like they don't care anything about a body
No.
until one just pops up naturally, which there's so many theories when it comes to that.
Yeah, I've heard they bury their dead, they
Well,
disintegrate. I mean, I've
we actually got an awesome picture last week, of a what to believe as a burial site by the guy that we were talking about. And this guy is one of the biggest names in Bigfoot, so it's one of those things. What he says, I kind of believe. Um, and if you've seen this picture, you'd understand why we never look where you would even think to look for a burial site. Like it would just it makes everybody thinks even me I question if they buried them underground or whatever, but it makes 100%. Oh, Ricky, send him that picture when we get done. It makes
Okay,
100%
yeah, I'll do that, Alex.
sense. Like they bury them right out in plain sight.
See, I have a question for that. I don't know if one of you asked or a person watching asked. Did he say anything about possibly unearthing anything on that, like anything,
No, he
or
did
just
not.
walk away?
He don't mess with them.
I didn't
No,
know.
he's an awesome guy. He has the utmost respect for these creatures, and basically he told us there's no way that he would disturb a burial site like that.
Yeah, I just didn't know if because you're not killing one. I didn't know if it was one of those things. It's like, here's a skeleton, here's some pictures. This is what you're gonna get. This is all you're gonna get. I
Well,
didn't know.
that's what I tell everybody.
No, and I even believe that we may already have a body,
Yeah.
I believe the
let me
government does.
rephrase that, or had a body. I
My
mean,
opinion, I believe the government knows these things exist. They've know they've existed for years and years. It goes back to Mount St. Helens when Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980. There was conflicting stories that came out of that area in Washington that said they actually recovered Bigfoot bodies off that mountain when it exploded, and that would make sense to me. That was the site of the 1929. Oh God, what do they call it when Ape Canyon, when the Bigfoot attacked the miners in Ape Canyon and destroyed the cabin that they were in. Uh, but then, as the story goes, Bigfoot was actually provoked into doing what they did because, according to the
well,
storyline,
all these.
one of the miners the day before had actually shot one of the creatures off a cliff there next to the cabin, and the following night, then these things attacked their cabin. So,
Well, all these stories of places getting attacked by them and everything, that's what, we were talking about last week, is normally the human was the instigator to the
Yeah.
problem.
right.
My thing is, though, if they do exist truly, and they know they exist, how come they haven't said anything about it or put them as an endangered species and protected the land and stopped that? I mean, what's the worst?
Well, the biggest
They are actually, Georgia, we actually have a law against killing Bigfoot.
Okay, I did see that. Isn't Washington going to do something, or Colorado or
Washington
California?
State did one. Washington State has had that law since
Okay.
1972.
But they got laws, but it's almost like
Well,
they don't want to believe they exist. But
in order to have a law, it has to be based off of past um, reasoning.
yeah,
Right. I mean,
So,
yeah.
you just think the government would just come out and like, okay, yeah, it's 2020, there's COVID, there's all this. Also, Bigfoot exists. We're going to protect the land. Just
well,
call it a
it's
done
one of
deal.
those. It's one of those things, you tell most people that we have monsters running around in our woods, because that's what most people classify them as. That
Yeah,
totally changes. It totally changes
But
people's outlook.
you've got to look.
You,
What it would actually do to the camping industry. The camping and fishing, hunting industry in the United States is like a 15-20 billion-dollar a year industry. All right, if you had our government step up and say, yes, look, these creatures do exist, they're out there, we're going to have to coexist with them. How many people do you think is actually going to stop going to the woods and
well,
interacting in fishing,
and,
hunting, camping, hiking, whatever, because
and
of it?
two, I think it goes a little deeper in that. That's what we were talking about the DNA last week. We actually have we have DNA that has it's undiscovered. The
yeah,
DNA that we have that we are pretty sure came from Bigfoot, it's the mother side is human, the father side, we don't know what it is. So it could be something as simple as the government don't want us to. I mean, could it be extraterrestrial? There are a lot of things that what's that other DNA? It may be something that they don't want us to know.
Yeah. So they could have been doing some splicing in the lab.
So there are multiple reasons. It's just like here until recently, the government's actually kind of acknowledged UFOs. So after all these years of we don't, UFOs don't exist. Well, they've actually been a little. They haven't, said, hey, they are UFOs, but they're more acknowledgement of it. So
yeah, and I think at this time period in 2020, with the movies, the Facebook, YouTube, everything else in between, even if they came out today and said aliens exist, UFOs exist, Bigfoot exists, Loch Ness monster exists, yeah, you're gonna get some surprised people, but half of us were like, "Hey, I told you so," and probably go about our daily business. So
you're just now telling us like we've been on this train for years.
yeah, it's like, yeah, I already knew it. Thank you. I'm not crazy anymore.
Right.
But yeah, you go back to 1950s or 1900s. 1800s, witchcraft was a big thing. You just mix some spices together the wrong way and you're a witch. Today's world is, in my opinion, completely different. I think we're dang near acceptable anything possible right now. What else could we find? So.
Well,
our government does some things that we'll never understand. So.
No.
Alex, I asked everybody this toward the end of our shows. What are your feeling about your interactions with the Sasquatch? Do you actually think this creature is? You think it's a benign creature or a benevolent creature that is really out there not going to harm anyone, or have you felt threatened from this creature? Do you think this creature could actually do you harm? What's your feeling on it?
I do not feel threatened in any way. I do feel like if it wanted to harm me, it would have no issues. Like I as a human, 6 foot tall, 250, I couldn't take it on if I wanted to. I couldn't protect myself if I wanted to against it really. But I do acknowledge that they exist, and I acknowledge that one is definitely near my property right now, and I will keep you updated on everything I can, any pictures, videos, recordings, anything possible at this point.
Oh yeah, man, do that, and maybe one of these days, Blake and I could get up there and do a little research with you.
I would love for someone to go out here when he's howling and camp outside by yourself. I'll give you that much. Like I got some people.
We would do it.
Oh yeah, we'd be willing to do it.
By yourself?
By ourselves.
We would do it.
I just walk outside and the cold and the chills hit me.
We've been in some sketchy situations. So.
Hey, dude, we were standing in the cemetery, rural cemetery, one night, and standing at this grave. We were doing paranormal research, and we're standing at this grave, and all of a sudden, these rocks the size of basketballs comes hurtling through the treetop, landing at our feet. They were like 6 of us there. I turned around, everybody has left. All of them were come down at the lower end of the cemetery. I'm still standing up there under the tree looking around. I hollered, "Hey, where'd your boys go?" Blake's daddy hollered back, "Hey, man, they're throwing down rocks." So, we've been in some wild situations. Trees pushed over, limb breaks, just all kind of stuff. So it really doesn't bother us.
My point of view is everything's happening so quickly within a few weeks, and it's like it's nonstop. And I guarantee if I go home tonight, it'll be hooting and hollering again or something else. I don't know yet. It's typically every other day right now recently. So it's just a fact that's so close together, and it's like, oh, okay. Like it's a little nerve-wracking.
The fact that it's at your house.
Yes.
It's one thing to go out in the woods, 30 miles away and have this stuff happen, but when it's happening where you live, it's, I guess, a little different of a circumstance.
And the gifting basket's within like a few hundred feet from my house, and everyone's like, "Oh no, have it like a mile away." I'm like, I don't want to. Like, I want it on my property to a point. Like, if I look out my window, I'm like, "Hey, good morning, how you doing?" Just enough to see it, just to understand it more. But and I'm gonna do my best if I can see it in person.
As long as you do nothing to harm the creature or make the creature mad, I think you're good.
Right.
Maybe one day you'll have a Bigfoot on your show.
my advice, my advice to you as a young researcher is get you a journal and whatever you do when this thing it doesn't matter. You know if it's 1 o'clock in the morning it wakes you up, just jot it down. Just jot down the time, what it was doing, whatever. This is something that you'll have for future reference. Uh, and I'm talking not this, not this left by the wayside or whatever. Just keep a running journal of what this thing does each night, and that will actually help you as far as being able to pattern this thing. As far as its travels, the distances it actually comes to your house, uh, the whole 9 yards.
Well, yeah, that's probably the best way. Maybe if it's a repetition kind of thing, a hot spot, the specific week, specific month, what the
Right,
temperature is, rainy, cold, and hot.
Help you keep up with behavior.
Yeah,
right. That's the
but
whole. That's the whole key to it. That's the whole key to research. The
yeah, right
more you
now,
learn about them,
Because you learn more from behavior than anything.
right.
That's your key of evidence is behavior.
yeah, and right now I've got a gifting basket. I've got a tree that was cut down on the property for me. That I've got a stack of bones. I found the rest of the deer bones and the spinal cord and freaking shoulder blades and rib bones. I just stuck them on the tree. I'm like, well, there's another spot for you to come to. That spot is in viewing distance from my house, so I don't know if that's too close. But it's just something I'm trying anything and everything now. It's like I'm trying to make sure it knows that I'm not going to harm it. I don't know if it was Rick or someone else, but they told me to carve a Bigfoot out of wood and leave it behind to maybe give a sign that you know what they look like or something like that. They might actually keep that. They said don't do plastic because the plastic has a certain smell. They might like plastic stuff. So, but
Yeah.
I might try to find a Bigfoot carving and leave that behind.
I mean,
Maybe like let them know that hey, I kind of know what you look like. Unless they get upset and think it's fatter than them. I don't know.
Hey, you may have one come get the camper with you.
That's what my girl keeps saying. She was like, "You're gonna mess with it too much, and it's gonna be a female, and you're leaving all these gifts, and it's gonna think you're courting it."
all right,
Could
Ricky,
be.
you ready to close it out?
Yeah, let's close her out.
All right, Alex, thank you for coming on, buddy.
Yes, sir.
I
Thank you.
mean, if you ever want to come back on, you're more than welcome. Just let Ricky know. I mean, if you have anything new happen, you want to come on and share, just let
That's
Ricky
fine.
know, and we can make that happen.
I had fun.
All right, man. Hey, like Blake said, anytime you want to come back, man, you're welcome. Yeah, you
Yes, sir.
find any new evidence, whatever, keep us informed. We'll bring you back on and let you share it with our viewers.
All
Alex,
right.
thank you very much. We really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it, man. Hope you have
I
a
appreciate it.
lot of fun with this. Like I say, it's something. Don't take it too serious, but take it serious enough. If you're gonna do the research, just kind of get you a journal and log everything down, and that way,
Just have fun with it. Just
have
have
fun
fun
I
with
with
it.
am.
That's what we do. All right, Alex, thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the close of another program. We hope you've enjoyed. I know I have. I've enjoyed speaking with Alex tonight. Alex, a very good young man. I think he's going to be very knowledgeable in the Bigfoot field. Blake, you got anything before we close out?
Nope. As always, guys, thank y'all very much. If you don't mind, hit the subscribe button, bell notification, comment, and you guys have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Turkey Day to everybody out there. Hope everybody eats. We're going to be like me, eat more than you should. I plan on putting enough away, probably for 2 people.
All right.
Good night,
I gotta get off
everybody.
here, Ricky. I gotta find Clifford.
All right, Blake. I'll see
Clifford!
you. Good night, everybody.
Bye.